Yeah. So we can speak about, shall we say, higher matters. This is the way Gurdjieff expresses higher matters, higher hydrogens is what he's talking about in the terminology he uses. So let's speak about higher matters. Because I want you to understand this legomenism by the very saintly Ashiata Shamash. It's called the terror of the situation. Well, why is it called the terror of the situation? And it is called the terror of the situation because what is being said is that objective conscience, we still have the possibility, we still have a connection, some sort of connection, however tenuous, a possibility at least of a connection with objective conscience as ordinary men and women. And this is the terror of the situation. Because it means that we are going to be, at some point in the future perhaps, confronted with our lives from the viewpoint of objective conscience. Objective conscience is conscience, the object in the universe, independently of us. Conscience is an object in the universe, independent of us. We are going to be viewing our lives, everything that we do, from the viewpoint of this objective conscience. And this is the terror of the situation. Thank goodness we don't have, as Ashiata Shamash says, faith or hope or love. Otherwise we would be viewing our lives from these viewpoints. And this would be even more terrifying, wouldn't it? But I want to say something about this legomenism because it is easy to gloss over what Gurdjieff is saying, because this is what Ouspensky does. I've spoken about the deceptions in Ouspensky's teaching, where Gurdjieff gives very exact statements. Ouspensky, the journalist, records them, and yet Ouspensky interprets them in a completely different way to Gurdjieff. That is to say, what Gurdjieff actually said is not how Ouspensky interprets them. And we need to be clear here in this legomenism, the terror of the situation, because it is about objective conscience. Conscience, it's not about conscience in man. It's not Gurdjieff wasn't teaching psychology. As I've said, we're talking about higher matters here. Gurdjieff wasn't teaching psychology. He's teaching the structure and energies of man, and here in terms of the relation to the structures and energies in the universe at large, objective reality, and our possibilities of connecting with this. And I want to dispel one illusion that there is in this. And this comes from this legomenism, because the very saintly Ashiata Shamash is very clear in this legomenism. He is saying that there rests in us, there remains in us only objective conscience. We have the possibility of contacting objective conscience. Objective conscience is not part of us, it's in the universe, but we have as individuals have the possibility of contacting objective conscience. And that's the only way, according to the very saintly Ashiata Shamash, that's the only way we can get rid of what is described in this book, Tales of Beelzebub to his grandson, as the crystallized consequences of the organ Kundabuffer. So the objective conscience is introduced in the context here of the means by which we can get rid of the crystallized consequences of the organ Kundabuffer. Okay, I've said that. Now, when we look at what Beelzebub is saying, look at this book, read this book. Beelzebub in this book is saying that this is not the problem. The problem is not the crystallized consequences of the organ Kundabuffer. So you'll think, what on earth am I talking about? Well, you've got to read the book. You reach a certain level and you might begin to understand what I'm talking about. But the very saintly Ashiata Shamash is saying that we still have objective conscience. The other sacred messengers have worked through faith, love and hope to overcome, as it were, to get rid of the crystallized consequences of the organ Kundabuffer, which we can associate in some way with sort of egoism and self-centeredness, self-interest in man. All these negative qualities that we think of in man. But Beelzebub is saying that this is not true. So we have the other quality, of course, is reason. And the Ashiata Shayamash, I think, in this legomanism, is talking about the Buddha, trying to eliminate the crystallized consequences of the organ Kundabuffer by means of reason. Jesus, in the Christian faith, by means of love. So we have the try to task in the Christian faith. Try to love your neighbour as yourself. To come to the realisation that we can't do it. And so we ask, why can't I do this? This is a divine quality. Why doesn't it manifest in me? Why can't I do this? And so on. But what Beelzebub is saying, and this is what I'm trying to point out to you, Beelzebub is saying that this is not the problem. All these sacred messages were wrong. That's Gurdjieff's message, put it that way. All the sacred messengers from above were wrong. The problem is not the crystallized consequences of the organ Kundabuffer. This is not the problem. And again, 150 times, in this book, Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson, I've just done me carrots. In this book, Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson, Gurdjieff is pointing out again and again, this is not the problem. 150 times he tells us what the problem is. And I've given examples, the first three examples, for example, in this book, where Gurdjieff says, or at least Beelzebub says, the problem is not the crystallized consequences of the organ Kundabuffer. All these sacred messengers were wrong. The problem is, and what is it? It's this phrase that comes out 150 times in Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson. The problem is the abnormal, external conditions of ordinary being existence established by us ourselves. The abnormal, external conditions of ordinary being existence established by us ourselves. Well, what does this mean? But they are established by us ourselves. So we are the problem. We are creating the problem. The problem is not some organ implanted in us years and years ago, before we were born, that we can't do anything about. The problem is not that. The problem is the abnormal external conditions of ordinary being existence, whatever they are, established by us ourselves. We are doing it. We are the problem. Beelzebub is saying that the sacred messengers from above are all wrong. That's why it hasn't worked. That's why they come. Tell us what's wrong with us. The crystallized consequences of the organ Kundabuffer go away and it just gets worse. They're wrong. So this is a message from this book, this is a message from this legomanism. That the problem we have is not the crystallized consequences of the organ Kundabuffer. The problem we have is the abnormal external conditions of ordinary being existence established by us ourselves. And this is written down, this phrase appears, slight variations on it, 150 times in this book, The Tales of Beelzebub to His Grandson, by Gurdjieff, just so that we get it. This is our problem, the abnormal, external conditions of ordinary being existence established by us ourselves. So what does this mean? How do we establish these abnormal external conditions of ordinary being existence, and why do we do it? This is a subject for serious study, isn't it? The sacred messengers from above were all wrong.